question. Have you ever watched you or a loved one have health conditions that you don't know where they're going to end up? You don't know what the status is. And the symptoms were there the whole time. Or what if the symptoms were more threatening than even the disease or the illness? I would like for you to think about that for a moment as I reintroduce myself. Hello, my name is Dr. Terrence Elliott. And in that, I am what many would call a cancer survivor. Now, before I can kind of get into that, if I may, let me give you a little bit of my background. My background carries me into the space of, first of all, I've been a U.S. Army chemical soldier, lived a healthy lifestyle. I've recently retired from the Pentagon, writing policy for substance abuse, suicide, and sexual assault for 25 plus years. As far as in my community back home, I'm a philanthropist, as they would say, because I'm also known as a Kentucky Colonel. I'm an Archbishop, actually Metropolitan Archbishop for the entire state of Kentucky, Christian counselor, and a chaplain. But outside of all of my accomplishments, everything that I've done, nothing could prepare me for the challenge I was about to have. And if I still went back a little bit more in history with the challenge, I believe everything started for me back in 2017. And I just want to be as transparent and translucent with each and every one that's listening. So back then, as far as health is concerned, I began to notice that I was having an overactive bladder. And so in that, the reality of the matter is, I believe my ego began to talk. I know a lot of people are familiar with what I'm saying, because ego usually talks when you don't get diagnosed. You've had the times that something has gone on with your body and you said, it's not worth going to the doctor because I can probably do a home remedy. And you began to diagnose yourself. I hope everybody's really understanding what I'm saying. So you began to let your ego talk and say, I don't need anything else. As time went on, though, a couple of years later, all of a sudden I started experiencing kidney stones. Would go to the hospital, would go through the trauma of the pain that I was experiencing. And this was year after year, almost like clockwork. Mine would hit almost the exact same time every year. So some are probably familiar with the saying, sooner or later, enough is enough. So I had to tell myself, enough is enough. I need to know what's going on with me. I need to put my ego on the shelf and go figure out what is going on with my health. So I decided to go to a urologist and say, hey, let me know if this bladder thing and the issues that I'm having with kidney stones, is it my genetics? Is it my DNA? What is it that's causing this? Because once again, ego is talking. And I want to say, hey, if it's something I can go get over-counter prescription, I'm fine, and life goes on. call me in and say, hey, we're going to run some tests on you. I was fine with it. They said, hey, if you don't hear from us in a week, everything is A-okay. It's probably age. So a week passes and a day. And I'm home in the comfort of my own backyard. Sun is shining. I've had a wonderful day. And all of a sudden I get a phone call. And they say, you have stage 2 prostate cancer. Hit me like a ton of bricks. It's probably the same thing for some people that may be listening to me right now. You've either had some major diagnosis or a family member, but when it's you in the seat and it hits you, and probably like anybody else, I began to run questions in my head because I'm asking myself, how did I miss this? What did I not do? I thought I lived a healthy life. I've done all those things spiritually. I've done everything, as far as life is presented to me. What did I miss? And while I'm also looking at trying to figure out what I did wrong, my mind also begins to shift and go into another direction. I began to ask, outside of what I may have missed, am I going to die? Am I going to live? How long am I going to live? How do I tell my family what my diagnosis is? How do I get my affairs in order? Because everything that I've seen in life that's plastered about cancer, the outcome is usually not successful. Those are the things I had to struggle with. Took me a day. I had to sleep on it and had to reset my mind. And when I say reset my mind, I had to tell myself, if I'm going to be clergy of the church, if I'm going to believe everything that I've been working and doing all these years in my professional career, where do I let that carry me? And I began to meditate on this motto that I had to use to push forward. And that motto was healthy enough to survive. Now, when I say this motto, you have to understand that that motto had 2 tiers below it: resilience and prevention. Now, I know some are saying, okay, those are buzzwords that we're familiar with, but let me, if I may, define some things for you. When we talk about resilience, many people look at that as the catchphrase of bouncing back. But I beg to differ. Resilience is really about bouncing forward. You're not trying to go back where you were. You're trying to be where you are and be able to move forward. So what did resilience look like to me? First thing I said is, okay, if I'm going to bounce forward in this situation and not let this situation call me to wither away and die, first thing I need to do is I need to go do homework on what I'm dealing with. And it was interesting, even in the statistics of what I learned about the subject of cancer, especially my specific cancer, prostate cancer. I discovered that over 300,000 men are diagnosed with prostate cancer every year. As an African American male, 1 out of every 8. And what was breathtaking for me is that every year over 400,000 men die from prostate cancer. Let those numbers begin to run in your head right now. And I'm only talking from the perspective of males. There's the dynamics with women having breast cancer or people having thyroid cancer or whatever other category it is. But the fact it became real for me in the resilience of wanting to be healthy to survive. So as I began to do research there, I had to understand also that resilience means I have to take an active role in my own health. Many people wait on someone else to take the role of health for you. Many people wait and say, only when I have a situation going on with my health, I'll let the doctor step in and be the physician, but we never take an active role when it comes to our own self. And in our resilience, it's going to require each and every one of us to say, hey, what do I need to do to change my circumstance? It took me going to look and say, not only am I going to learn something about my current diagnosis, but it also took me saying, hey, what do I need to change in my life? I need to change my lifestyle of what I'm eating. I need to change some of the things that I'm doing in my life that are not helping the situation, they're hurting it. In the same turn, I ended up having to yield to having radiation treatment. Yeah. Radiation treatment has its ups and downs. But in that, I said, hey, based upon diagnosis of what's going on in my life and based on what I'm going to do to help myself, let me also do some of those things that are necessary, that are offered out there for me to take control of my health versus letting my health take control of me. In that, it led me to the place of prevention. And when we talk about having prevention, just as much as resilience, it really speaks to what am I doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? What am I doing to make sure it doesn't even happen? Because there are some that are listening to me that you haven't crossed these bridges of having challenges of health in your life. And while you're still in what we would call a healthy place, that's the time you need to say, hey, what do I need to do to prevent anything from happening versus me being lackadaisical and letting things begin to digress and spiral out of control. So in prevention, I said, let me adjust. Let me adjust my diet. Let me adjust my activities. Because what's real, even about prevention and resilience, there's 3 areas of you as a person that you're trying to address. There's the physical you, there's the emotional you, and there's a spiritual you. All 3 of them are important in every aspect of what you do. All 3 of them you're going to find are important even when it comes to what health challenges you may have. All 3 of them are important with you facing the music and saying, I'm not going to ignore my issue until my issue is too bad for me to ignore. So based on that, what lesson did I learn? The lesson that I was able to learn out of it is listen to your body versus your ego. Listen to what your body already is programmed to tell you about yourself and give it a priority versus letting your ego, letting your mind continue to tell you what you need to do and what you don't need to do. And then when you're able to posture yourself in that place, now you find it easier moving forward. So if I had to give you anything else in closing, being healthy enough to survive, being resilient, having prevention as part of who you are, doesn't start with a diagnosis and what ends up being the result. It starts with you. And it goes beyond the diagnosis. It goes beyond the issue, whether it's at the beginning of the diagnosis or at the end. And with that being said, thank you for your time.